Denis Yelisevich is on the line. Welcome, Denis.
Hello.
Please subscribe to Denis Yelisevich's and Liberty Ukraine channels, like the video and comment. Denis, last night I watched your video with your viewers, the one you made for your audience, and I got the impression that you are not very shocked by the situation that happened between Trump and Zelensky by that conversation. It seemed like you were prepared for this, that nothing would happen that would amaze us or make us feel that peace is getting closer. You reassured your viewers, telling them that there is no real reason to panic about this. Why? Because I remember when the conversation took place in the Oval Office, you were very shocked and dissatisfied, and you expressed that. Why is it different now? Because Zelensky said that he went to Trump with a peace formula. What went wrong?
I was shocked by the meeting in the Oval Office because no matter how much I liked Zelensky, I understood that after his performance, Ukraine would suffer. I was shocked by the disrespect shown to the President of the United States with no gratitude. Nobody in history behaved like this in the Oval Office. As for yesterday, it's true, I was calming people down because Trump made a statement. Yes, Ukraine could potentially reclaim all its borders and even more. That is, I've been trying for a long time, for several years now, 3.5 years. You could say I've been preparing people, getting them ready to perceive the right information, explaining things. People still read and react in extreme ways, either seeing a disaster and despair or feeling euphoric and thinking everything is great. That wasn't the case of a catastrophe. They thought Trump is now for war, and now the war will go on again. And basically, it's forever and ever. It was actually a bluff targeting Putin and trolling Zelensky and the Europeans. And that's what I tried to explain to people, because there was literally panic in my Telegram channel. But I know my audience is the best and most enlightened. I can't imagine what others were thinking. That's why I tried to explain it yesterday, and now I can tell you, don't pay attention to it. Soon there will be entirely different statements. I know for sure that the negotiation process is in full swing. I just know this for a fact. Don't take it so personally. Don't take all those messages you see in seriously. That is, you should read and pay attention, but without swinging from one extreme to the other. Stay focused in one direction. Anyway, things are moving toward peace very slowly, but they are moving toward peace. Yes, the situation will remain like this until the end of this year. People will die and the fighting will continue. But the global situation has long been at a dead end. And from the new year, the intensity of the fighting will be much less. Things will move towards paperwork.
So let's go back to our latest conversation. You previously claimed the peace agreement already exists and is literally on the table. Zelensky rejects it because it lacks terms favorable to him. Regarding what will change, you said that these military actions will continue until the new year. And what do you think, if this agreement is already ready, what will change by the new year? Let's suppose that Zelensky is satisfied with this and he signs it. What will happen? What will change in behavior?
Let me phrase it correctly. On the table, there are clear conditions from Putin and Russia on how they are ready to end the war. And from Ukraine's side, there are also clear conditions. But there's the matter of sequence. So Zelensky wants security guarantees now, and such guarantees that would allow him to go to elections. And I'm basically okay with everything. They tell him, first of all, there's no ceasefire, only a full peace right away. We end everything, and then we sit down to discuss security guarantees and everything else. And it's only about Ukraine and geopolitics, not about Zelensky's personal or political ambitions. That's how everything is happening. That's what's really on the table. But as we can see, they're not really able to come to an agreement. You're asking what might change in the future? There's no money. There's no money to fight, no people to fight. People don't want to fight. Right now, his only option is if he gets money, and he won't get it, to ramp up mobilization a lot. Really a lot. It's already tremendous, and he would have to make it even harsher. Consider other sources for infantry. He has a counteroffensive and something else and something else. That's the only way. I don't believe in any money. Trump was clearly making a jab. He said it himself. You can take everything, almost take half of Russia. Europe will finance all of it. That's just pure trolling. Why? They came about a month or month and a half ago, and we discussed it. I covered it. Zelensky and the Europeans visited the White House, remember? Starmer, yes, we discussed this. Starmer was there. Basically, everyone came. They shook hands, hugged, kissed. Yes, President Trump, we left with you, but they keep pushing their agenda with all this war nonsense. Trump responds to them the same way. Unfortunately, many others also try to show and teach people this. They blocked the road for Macron in New York. You probably saw it, so Trump could pass. Then for Erdogan. That's how it all is. These are signs, signals, you know. It's even a display of disrespect, you could say. They're trying to put them in their place. You treat me like this, so I'll treat you the same way. In response, they turned off the escalator on him. You've probably seen this too, and the teleprompter as well. So the situation is global. There's complete misunderstanding. And Trump, roughly speaking, okay, you want war, you don't care about your people, Zelensky, and Putin, you don't care about your people, you want war. I've done everything for you, and my team is trying as well. I'll watch from the sidelines now. If you need advice, I'll be ready to help you. Well, that's it, to put it simply.
Here's another question. Why do you think Trump didn't do it differently and didn't ban Americans from selling weapons to Europeans? We understand Trump won't give Ukraine weapons or money, but he will sell to Europeans and they will buy for Ukrainians. Why didn't he take that step and refuse to sell weapons?
Because for Trump, he is the president of the United States, and his number one priority is the United States economy and America's interests. Selling weapons and making huge profits in America's interests is exactly Trump's job. If there are people willing to buy and kill their own people, then Ukrainians and Russians are the fools, not Americans. So go ahead. Do you understand? That's how it looks. And Trump can't put Ukraine above America and its interests. Besides, there's the work of the intelligence agencies. There are countless nuances. I explained the money situation to my people yesterday as well. A Stinger missile used to cost about $40,000 before or at the start of the war. Now, some contracts price it at $360,000. This is a very ordinary missile. It's not like it's some big cruise or ballistic missile. It's a completely ordinary thing. On average, in the contracts, the cost is $160,000, making everything 4 to 8 times more expensive. The arms dealer market is chaotic. It's war. That's why they're interested. Besides, Trump is that kind of person. He's not like Zelensky. He doesn't keep a team together. Just praise me, give me a warm bath. He has, for example, a few people who have a completely opposite point of view when it comes to war. For example, General Kellogg is a war hawk. And Trump, I know Trump is annoyed by some things, but he doesn't say to him, all right, that's it, we don't need you anymore. Because that's how he makes decisions on the most important issues, especially on those that require professional competence. He listens to one side, listens to the other, and tries to find the optimal solution. And not, as I say, when Yermak praises you in one ear and in the other, you're the best, you're amazing, the bravest, the most talented. That's it, you're the greatest. That's how Zelensky lives. Just look at the results and what's happening to Ukraine and to America.
Please explain your position regarding what Trump said, that he will share his opinion about Putin in a month, whether he is deceiving him or not. What does he mean? Why specifically in a month? What will happen during that month?
Well, he's just avoiding the question. If he says now what he might want to say, for example, that Putin is a scoundrel, we will immediately understand that the negotiations will not happen. American interests will be compromised. He is doing diplomatic work. He is giving Putin a chance. Not to burn bridges. That is, Trump is not burning bridges. He tells Putin that he can still stop the war, listen, and so on and so forth. I can imagine how hard it is for Trump, because in reality, Putin is ready to continue the war. And for Zelensky as well, basically. I want to tell people to pay attention to the video of Zelensky's behavior at the United Nations after his conversation with Trump. He literally lit up. He didn't get that trolling. He thought someone was going to help him now. He was smiling. Publicly, Trump said, let's go to war, guys. That's his element, a God war. How wonderful. Only Zelensky isn't fighting. His relatives aren't fighting. The 95th quarter isn't fighting. No one is fighting. When Trump discussed peace, Zelensky looked upset and downcast. But when war was mentioned, he seemed excited. He sat in the office with journalists and said, I feel like the President of the United States. Oh, these are terrifying people. These are scary people.
And Europeans, what can you say about them? So now we see that as long as Europeans give money and buy weapons from America, we continue to fight in Ukraine, right?
Well, yes.
From the moment they pay attention to people, because it's supposed to be the center of democracy, prosperity, and human dignity above all. They don't pay attention. They probably see it, but they don't pay attention to the fact that we don't have people who want to go to war. In other words, the mobilization forces are exhausted and no attention is being paid to this. And another thing, on September 24th, Russian troops carried out a combined ballistic strike and soldiers were killed at the training center. And here's a question for Europeans. If they also see this situation and understand that Ukraine's air defense depends financially only on them, why don't they provide more of it or admit that they can't supply it in sufficient quantity?
Europeans lack air defense systems because they rely on the US-made Patriot system and its American-produced missiles. A global missile shortage means everything depends on America, preventing Europeans from supplying air defense systems. France makes quality air defense systems, yet Macron isn't rushing to supply any. So there are some nuances. I don't know what they are. Maybe there aren't many of them, or maybe it's about how to operate them. Well, I'm not a military expert, but for some reason they're not being provided. So you say Europe doesn't see it. But if we don't feel sorry for our country or people, and if people don't see things have been wrong for a long time and don't protest, even without taking to the streets, most people can't even admit, even to themselves or close friends, that things are bad and something is wrong. Do you understand? Is this up to Trump or the Europeans? If we don't feel sorry for ourselves, then why should anyone else feel sorry for us? And why do our people always rely on others? Don't Europeans see our dictatorship here? And what about America? So when they see what's happening with Trump, I'll just say, when he sees real discontent, America will react differently. But for now, they're just watching. I know this. They're seeing lawlessness and chaos like a nightmare. Well, basically, it's all calm. There are a few people like me who speak out about things, but it's not a widespread, open phenomenon. The dictatorship is so entrenched that mass movements are impossible. No one will protest. I'm not saying that there's a crazy dictatorship in the country. You'll just suffer and gain nothing. But you should at least be able to tell what's right and what's wrong. The situation is at a dead end. The war is already being fought for nothing. Zaluzhny has admitted it before, saying it publicly and writing about it in an article. From now on, it's just drone warfare. They strike with drones, the others strike with drones. There won't be any infantry breakthroughs. None of that will happen. So it's just a stalemate, people dying from drones, from missiles. It's a remote war, but in reality, nothing will move forward. So this needs to be stopped. A compromise is needed, and Ukraine should compromise more than Russia. I'm scared of saying this. I don't like it. It's unpleasant to say, but we're in a weak position. Putin has 140 million people, and general mobilization hasn't even started yet. He's buying his own military manpower equipped with weapons and money. Economically, their situation can be evaluated in various ways. But globally speaking, Europe continues to buy energy resources from him. We've already discussed this with you as well. And Trump, you noticed, we talked about it, and then Trump immediately started saying the same thing. Why? I know this is being seriously discussed here. There's confusion. They were shocked by the numbers, and digging deeper was unbelievable. Europe is actually funding Putin, if we're being honest. That's the situation.
Well, I understand that Europe doesn't have air defense systems, but if they want to help Ukraine financially, for example, Callas says that we shouldn't buy Russian oil and gas because it's bad, but they could have done something good and bought Patriots, at least to protect the military. Maybe that could have been done. And what should we ordinary people expect next if today Times of Ukraine publishes that soon 1,500 drones will be flying over Ukraine every day? If these can't be shut down now, then what do you think can be done?
The only thing is to end the war. Just end the war. Do you understand the situation? They'll give, as you say, 5 air defense systems. But I want to tell you, one Patriot system costs $1 billion. $1 billion. They're not mass-produced like iPhones. This is a unique product. Everything is complicated, and 5 air defense systems won't fix it. So, of course, fewer people will die, but they will still die, and the war will still go on. The fundamental question is not to mobilize more beautifully or loyally, not to deploy 5 air defense systems. The fundamental question is to end the war, because Ukraine is heading for collapse, people are losing their future, becoming disillusioned, and leaving. Many people are ready to leave any time, as that guy from the 3rd Assault Brigade said. I read it today. He was right. If borders open to all, about 360,000 men would leave each month. That's the truth. Honestly, I have no idea what lines would form. If the border opens tomorrow, millions will leave right away. It will gradually decrease. That's the truth. Why? People are thinking, wait, we were promised freedom, but they've made Russia for us. They tell us that the Buryats will mobilize us if we're occupied, but we're being mobilized like cattle. They beat us with their hands and feet, stab us with knives, chase after us, and kill us. Politically, they claim we'll always be poor and won't catch up to Poland or Romania. They don't promise democracy. If you don't speak the right language there, you risk being killed or deprived. That's why people are fleeing. Ukraine needs a new government, a new president, and a message of life and hope, not war, trenches, and death. Your life belongs to Zelensky and the state. Parents send me messages saying that children there, on playgrounds and in kindergartens, are writing poems, there. The idea is you were born in Ukraine, so you must give your life, even if not asked. Yeah, are you all crazy over there? Is this some kind of HAMAS now? Well, you can't talk about that. As Politico and The Economist wrote, I also discussed these articles yesterday. Zelensky is intolerant of criticism, I know that, and he is very unhappy with those who, in the eyes of international partners, in general the international community, kind of disrupt the agenda. We have to claim we're strong, the best, and our democracy is perfect. People like me warn Americans of disaster and present the facts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it.
You mentioned this phrase by Dmytro Kukarchuk. He talked about it, that Ukrainians will be leaving. But right after him, I read what Kuleba said. He says he will stay in Ukraine as long as he is alive and well, and only leave if he is taken out after death. So it gives the impression that Ukraine is a country where only a very good government should live. And it's still unclear at this point how the people can live. People in Zaporizhzhia are especially interested due to how the situation has developed. There were massive shellings recently, and during these attacks, people's homes were destroyed, some completely, and in some houses, only one wall is left. And then a representative from the administration came to them and said that if your house has at least one wall left, even though it's impossible to live there, that one wall is already an obstacle for you to receive the right to state compensation. People can't get compensation or live there, as only one wall remains. So what do you think? Why does such a corrupt obstacle exist? And why don't people talk about it on a large scale or fight for their rights, at least when so many houses have been destroyed in Zaporizhzhia?
It's a mystery to me too. Many people have suffered here, especially regarding housing and property. As you said, I don't really see any massive widespread discontent. Excuse me, but a person who has lost their home shouldn't care anymore about what's allowed or what's forbidden. I put myself in their shoes. They accept it somehow. These scoundrels mention walls, as you said. Let me explain. We could discuss this for a long time, but the answer is simple. In Ukraine, a human life is worth nothing, while in Western civilization, human life is the main value. And in Ukraine, people exist for the state, not the state for the people. People like Kuleba, the mayor of Melitopol, and others like them. They believe everything is for them, not us. They're just managers elected by foolish people and should simply do their jobs. You understand? So they're up here, and we're all down here just because they're in power. That's the main problem people can't understand. And we need to change the very essence of the state. We need to change the laws. We need to change the constitution. Everyone should be elected, starting with judges. Yeah. And there should be a recall mechanism. If someone somehow gets into office, we trust them, and then they act like this, there should be not an easy one, but a recall mechanism to terminate their authority. And he should go to court because it turns out he's doing illegal things. If someone said that in any Western country, even Poland, it would immediately mean political ruin and resignation. People there have resigned for less, even just for saying something awkward. That's far from such terrible things as a human life or war. We've completely lost our sense of direction. And the scariest thing is this situation created by Zelensky, a dictatorship and complete monopoly over everything, even words. Now only the authorities have the right to an opinion. Even these small fry understood it. Now we can do anything. Now we can do absolutely anything. How often has Dnipromir Filatov openly cursed, insulted, and threatened people in comments? These weren't isolated incidents by some petty thug. You understand? These are incredible people. And I'm telling this to Americans here, and they don't believe me. In 2022, I told some officials a few things when I arrived, but they didn't believe me. Today, Politico and The Economist are covering this. That's all. Understand?
I understand this situation, and I still don't understand Zelensky's rhetoric. Let's figure it out. Because he's telling Russians, especially officials, to either look for a bomb shelter or stop the war. you only have this choice. He says that the weapons he will receive, well, not him, but the Ukrainian forces, will launch them into Russian territory. Because Trump seems to be okay with it. He says you can take back your territories. That's what he's guided by. At the same time, regarding the elections, they say the following: elections are possible, but only if there is a ceasefire. But when Putin met Trump in Alaska, they discussed full peace. So what ceasefire is Zelensky referring to now?
They're trying to convince Trump again. Let's go step by step. First a ceasefire, then proceed from there. And General Kellogg shares the same point of view. I understand why Trump doesn't want to. First of all, Putin is against it. Secondly, Trump himself understands, and I can tell you from myself, if there is a ceasefire now, that's something that can be disrupted. Do you understand? Both Russia and Zelensky can disrupt it. Why am I so against it? Because the war ends, and unfortunately, but it's a fact, Putin stays in power. Unfortunately, but it's a fact, Putin stays in power. But the war ends for Zelensky and his political career ends and legal issues begin. Possibly isolation or prison. Definitely bad times for him. And who cares most about this? It's all obvious. I don't like either of them, but if we're just considering this fact, how could you break a full peace agreement afterwards? Major documents have been signed involving China, America, and Donald Trump. This is now serious. But a ceasefire is different. Just one drone, one shot, and everything falls apart. You see? Yeah, that's why I'm also strongly against a ceasefire. We should sit down and resolve all the issues. Not just to put a band-aid on the wound. We need to deal with this abscess completely, close this issue. Take everyone's interests into account, learn lessons from the grief that came to Ukraine with the war, and live differently from now on. There is no other way. Oh, by the way, about striking deep inside Russia, Trump actually hasn't given the green light for that yet. I don't rule out that he might use it to pressure Putin, which is a scary situation. On one hand, for all of us, it's moral satisfaction. Oh, we'll strike deep into Russia. On the other hand, it might push Putin toward peace. But there's a third side. So has Zelensky won again? And Zelensky shouldn't be allowed to win politically, because the more political success Zelensky and his government have, and the more secure his political power becomes, the scarier he becomes as a person.
In late 2023, his election rhetoric was, it's absolutely impossible because of the constitution and lack of security. By early 2024, it changed to, it's possible, but only under certain conditions. That is, there needs to be a guarantee of security. But it's unclear whether that's for the voters, Zelensky or Ukraine. And now there is already readiness for elections, and he will supposedly give instructions to the parliament to prepare if there is a truce. So do you feel that we are actually getting closer to elections? And does it seem like he is leaning toward the idea that they will actually happen soon?
No, it was. If you're talking about his Axios interview yesterday, that was a political trick. It was meant to ease the tension for the Western audience and critics. Like, yeah, I'm ready to leave. Like, my words, so that people like me, the words don't matter, you know? And to keep options open for political maneuvering. I don't buy it. I know they're worried about ratings. Not a single decision in the president's office is made with regard to Ukraine's interests when Ukraine comes first. It's mainly about Zelensky's rating and team stability. Okay or not? Okay. If it's okay, we do it. If it's not okay, that's where the first interest lies. And Ukraine comes somewhere after that. No, he's not ready for elections. It's just a bluff.
Could Zaluzhny be getting ready for elections? Just yesterday, on September 24th, his article appeared where he criticizes the Kursk operation. He doesn't fully criticize it, but he says that the losses were very high, the result was very small, and the situation is unfortunate. I'm curious, do you remember what he said earlier when the Kursk operation was just beginning? He was no longer the commander-in-chief at that time. But in your opinion, could he, in his position, do anything at all to prevent this operation?
No, he couldn't do anything, and he's not that kind of person. You see, he was afraid of Zelensky, Yermak. He followed the regime. He made a compromise. Heroes, reformers, and historical figures don't make such compromises. I don't see a historical figure here. A good president is some kind of tyrant who bangs his head against everyone in the wall and breaks everything around. No, but people are clearly against you. And I remember, I don't know if you remember or not, Zaluzhny left with an article in The Economist. He wrote an article in The Economist saying that the war is at a stalemate. I thought we would kill 500,000 Russians. They would stop. I was wrong. Then the Military Medical Commission, unfit for service, put on a suit and from London said silly things there, made silly photos and silly posts. That's not how to act. He's being threatened, his circle too. Go to London or elsewhere and join the political fight. Talk about it. Kursk, I don't remember. He definitely didn't comment negatively at first. He either stayed silent or said something positive. I think it was even positive. He supported Syrskyi as a friend or something like that. That's why people like Zaluzhny are unacceptable. We need someone more radical and uncompromising. And if I want to be good here and also want to be good there are no people more dangerous than that. Really, there is nothing scarier than people like that. Simplicity is worse than stealing. Zaluzhny is too simple for such a position, for such a role, and all the thoughts he expresses, I haven't heard anything smart there. I'm not talking about him as a military expert. Politically, though, he hasn't said anything smart. I'm not sure what he wants. He just said, everyone must be ready to die for Ukraine. That's your whole life right there. After that, it's non-stop war. He's a war hawk. Then there's Zaluzhny, a globalist tied to USAID. If Zaluzhny becomes Ukraine's president, the Yatsenyuks and the whole USAID group will return. The Soros crowd will make it like Ukraine in 2014. That's not what we need. We need something else entirely.
I remember that Economist article. I remember how people responded to Zaluzhny back then. There were tons of posts on social media. Thank you, General Zaluzhny. We will never be ashamed again. So what do you think? Do people now feel that making peace with Russia is somehow a moment of shame? Is there something like that here? What do you think? Is there some sense of shame here? Do you think people actually feel that way? That the terms seem awkward, uncomfortable, and that they are the aggressors? And it's like we're giving into them? Shame. Is there such a thing or not?
No, I only feel shame that we allow the dictatorship. We can't have any other shame. Putin hasn't captured a single regional center in 3.5 years, despite claiming he has a great army. He was hit hard at first. If we had signed the Istanbul Agreement, we wouldn't just avoid shame, we'd hold our heads high. Right now, I feel no shame at all. The heroic resistance of the army, the heroic resistance of the people, the heroic patience of the people in stressful situations, in the face of this overall horror, in resistance. Well, what can you do? Everything that was lost because of Zelensky and his team. The former mayor of Kherson talked about what happened in Kherson. It was simply the surrender of territory. No one answered us. They didn't show any real traitors, just fake ones like Dubinskys and Shevchenkos. There, they all got life sentences without a single piece of evidence. They surrendered Kherson there. They demined Chonhar. Not a single person. Bakanov, the head of the security service of Ukraine, hasn't been questioned even once. The head of the security service of Ukraine. The war began. Where was he? He was absent at first. Do you understand? What is there to say? As for Zaluzhny, I praised him too after that article. I thought that article was kind of a signal that it was time to end the war. Back then, I said the situation was hopeless. Now, as a general, he's confirming what I said. And then he started doing and saying stupid things. You know, when he did that, the biggest mistake was accepting Zelensky's offer. Western intelligence agencies would have always gotten him out of Ukraine. No one would have let him be sent to the front lines to get killed. Of course, that wouldn't have happened. But you see, that's what kind of military man Zaluzhny is. Zaluzhny is not the kind of person who will push through and insist on his own way. It's like appoint me as ambassador, appoint me as president. Certain forces, globalist ones, might come and appoint him as president. Well, not literally, of course, but appoint me. Pushing through, following some ideology is not what Zaluzhny can do. That's the key point, you understand? That's not Trump's or Javier Milei's character. It's more like appoint me. I'll sit in an office and do something that everyone will like.
I think that soon it will be even harder for active people to break through because it will be more difficult to talk about them. The Verkhovna Rada is reviewing a bill that claims to protect a person's honor and dignity. And there are many journalists and bloggers who, in their opinion, do not always present information accurately. That is, the information is fake or unreliable. About corruption, for example, when there is some kind of corruption scheme and there is no court result, no court decision, then a journalist does not have the right to publish it because it is considered not to be true. Court cases drag on for years. If a journalist or blogger says something about someone and that person doesn't like it, this can already be considered as a fine ranging from a certain amount to a very large one, even up to confiscation of property. A bill that hasn't been passed yet may be passed. You actively run a blog and know this information. What do you think? Will your rhetoric change? What will you do? And how would you describe these situations?
I'm not afraid, and my rhetoric stays the same. If this law passes, I doubt parliament members will willingly give up their mandates when needed. People will tear them apart. People will tear them apart. Ukraine will lose all support. All our attempts to join the European Union will be cancelled, which is kind of good. But that's not my opinion. That's what they say, they declare. That's a dictatorship. Tatiana, I am quite deeply integrated into the American media space. Here, it's a daily battle, just a meat grinder. The right goes after the left goes after the right, just media personalities, call them bloggers, speakers. What's going on is just, well, unbelievable, unbelievable. And we have a court decision. And what court? The one controlled by the president's office? Or did you suspect someone imagine that we have professional journalists, you suspected someone of something, and you have to go to law enforcement and file a report. And wait 3 years for an investigation. That's nonsense. It ruins journalists' work. I'm not a journalist. Some call themselves that. Let them react. Let's see how they and Dmitry Gordon make a fuss. Honestly, he's not an investigator, but still. But I'm just convinced they won't dare. If they do it, they're done. Over there, with us sometimes, you have members of parliament here. If they pass it, they're done. From the people, that's it. From the people, from the international community. I'm convinced these people are acting deliberately and putting their names forward as initiators, except for Stefanchuk. Only because they're on the hook and were asked to do this. They're playing along with certain forces, with a certain situation. I can't think of anything worse than this. These are dictatorial tendencies of Zelensky's team. And if they do this, believe me, people in America will know about it through me in 5 minutes. About this so-called Democrat and how he presents himself. What a great, honest guy he is, and how everything is supposedly fine in Ukraine. There is not even a drop of freedom of speech that is left. Before, with Soros, Bigus, Schmigus, you could at least say something. That won't happen again. I don't know what Ukrainska Pravda should do now. You can't say anything anymore. It turns out, cover the news, like Trump said this, Trump said that, someone else said something, that's it. Classic journalism, investigative work, it won't exist. It's madness, madness.
They say it all started when a female journalist wrote an article about that conflict that happened at the Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. So the Anti-Corruption Bureau has a certain database where they investigate cases, and lawyers had access to it, some kind of hacker access. Then when this hacker access was destroyed, they tried to learn this information by other means. Who has cases, how much is known, and when and where inspections will happen. And journalists published this, and that caused dissatisfaction. And that's one of the reasons why they want to pass this bill. You see, it's just like mention national.
They're fighting against the Anti-Corruption Bureau. They couldn't abolish the Anti-Corruption Bureau because the European and global public stood against it. That's how it happened. You see, that's the treachery of this government. It's just the treachery of this government. They are in trouble if this goes through.
And for us as a people, can we rely on the international community? They got involved when people went out to the Maidan for the Anti-Corruption Bureau. We saw it. They published articles, talked about not doing this because otherwise they wouldn't provide any help. Because Europe created this organization, will they defend journalists if needed?
There will be some commissions and statements from the European community, but ultimately people must decide for themselves if journalistic work is being banned. Is this even a good president? Does this country even have a future? So they don't need the Anti-Corruption Bureau, because I'm not for the Anti-Corruption Bureau, but I'm for democracy. If this is the only group countering the special services and Zelensky's authorities, so be it. And here it turns out that only the telethon has the real right to tell anything. If people are fine with all this, then all my work is pointless too. So I'm doing something unnecessary. These people want to live under dictatorship, oppressed like Putin's Russians. You can't say a word. We only have the amazing Zelensky. They're always right, always good, and everyone else is a fool. So Politico published this article about Zelensky, quite a powerful one. Several members of parliament jumped in and started posting. Scoundrels, these Russians bought the article. So when Politico praised Zelensky a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that was good, that was honest. That wasn't Zelensky who bought it, but now it's the Russians who bought it. For me, everything has been obvious for a long time. It just makes me feel bitter and hurt that tens of millions of our fellow citizens are like blind kittens, half of them, and the other half. It is none of my business. As people here like to say, nothing will ever change here. They are doomed. I'm definitely not speaking for those people, for example. I urge all of you to subscribe to Denis Yelisevich's channel and be sure to subscribe to the Liberty UA channel.
Thank you for being with us, Denis. Thank you for this meaningful conversation. Until next time.